What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be making a track and I want to show you guys the best way to do so. I know some people think that it's taboo to use samples and loops, but Splice is a really good place to find samples if you're looking for creativity. If you feel like you don't have an idea for a song, Splice is a great place to look for a sample just to get the creative juices flowing so you can make music. At the end of the day, people want music that sounds good. They don't care as much about the legitimacy behind it because plenty of artists sample. It's all part of making music. It's all about being creative and being able to add to other people's ideas. It's already hard enough to find a sample and use that sample in the context of other sounds. Now it's easy. You could go and you could click on a sound and then use the AI to find similar sounds, or create a stack with a loop. Right? Splice can do those things, and that's cheating. I think using this right here is cheating, but as long as you're like going into Splice and just finding a sample to build off of, I think that's a perfectly fine and acceptable way to produce music, especially if you're, let's say, a newer music producer and you don't have the experience of just creating your own sound design using Serum. If you're on a budget and you can't afford paying a few $100s for a synthesizer like Omnisphere or Nexus, Contact, all the other industry standard stuff, then you can go and pay $14 a month to get Splice. I think that's perfectly fine. And as long as you're trying to learn in the process, like getting better at music at the same time, I think that's perfectly fine. So you just find a sample, right? And then you have the key of the sample and the BPM of the sample, and that allows you to work off of the sample that you're getting. So in a way, it's just structuring your workflow to better suit your need, right? Just go find a sample, take your time, find something that you really like. Yeah, like that. Like I like the way this ARP sounds, so we're just gonna turn the BPM up to 110, and we're gonna download this sample right here. We loop it, and then what you want to do is get into the habit of structuring your song. So you don't want to just build an 8-bar loop. Okay, we have the sample right here. What we're gonna do is put a filter on the master, so we're creating a form of like an intro, right? You could just do something like this, and all we have to do is create an automation clip, drag this on like that, bam. What you'd want to do is mix the sound how you want. So if there's a lot of low end in the sound, you definitely want to mix that. And we're kind of just doing that to create some room for a low end that we might want to add. So we see this right here, and we can go and load up Serum. Just find a bass, right? So if we're trying to make a synthwave track right here, we'll want to find like an analog bass. A lot of times if you're going through synthesizers, you'll want to be patient and just go through and see the sound that you want best. Like this is pretty good. Right, you just take this sample, right, and it's as simple as that, and this is like a great way to get your song started. I know it's a really daunting thing when you open up your DAW and you see like a completely blank slate, but I find that just putting something in there before you start producing, like a sequence, a loop, a vocal, whatever, anything, can really help get your ideas flowing. I know a lot of people talk bad about like using loops and they think that it's cheating, that it takes no skill. I think like with anything in moderation is fine, as long as you're trying to mostly use your own sounds. If you're looking to just get some ideas, I think it's fine to use a loop, like one loop, maybe two, but one loop is what I would usually use in a song. I just use one loop, and then everything else is stuff I add to it. It's just using that loop to get some ideas. And you can really do this with any genre of music, but I usually use synthwave music, which is the genre that I usually create in. But yeah, just play around. just put that sound into the mixer. Alright, so we're going to create a sub bass. And that's important, obviously, when you're using a bass. Make sure you cut the high frequencies from the sub bass and then the low frequencies from the regular bass so there's no clashing. The sound fits together. Also, you can use Splice to find like one-shots, kicks, snares. And then it's just simplifying it, right? We go to pattern 3 and can use that to look for chord progression. Again, it's just you just add that in there. And you see, guys, how just simplifying your music production can really make you more creative. If you're like a beginner music producer, you'll be opening up that door and you won't really have any idea on where to start with your music production. I just find this way to be really efficient and helpful in like determining what key you might want your song in, what BPM. If you have these things figured out, then everything else you can do on your own, and you can work on a drum pattern, you can work on progressions. These things will help you out, and then when you're going through the process of mixing, you can slow down and teach yourself what sounds good, adding variation to your other sounds, anything in general. And again, this applies to just about any genre of music that you want to make. Creativity's there, but I would recommend getting at least 1 or 2 third-party synthesizers, like a Serum or something. It's a really good VST because you can learn how to sound design pretty easily with it. Everything's super visual, and there's a lot of guys online that could teach you how to utilize Serum. And if you hover over any of these dials, they're going to tell you what that does. So if you hover your mouse over, let's say, random, it's going to tell you what the functionality of it will be. Same thing with like the phase, the blend, the detune, unison, the wave table position, what sort of warp that you're going to have. So like if you wanted to put on like the sync, it's going to duplicate that wave function until you get all the way up, and then you're going to get a bunch of the same wave. Good if you want like tonality or something, right? And then you can drag the envelope onto whatever knob, and it's going to modulate that knob to whatever your envelope is or whatever your LFO is. So let's say I wanted to turn the sync on, right? If I drag the LFO on, if we hold our mouse to the LFO, it's going to use this triangle shape. Like that, see? You can adjust how quickly that goes. Right, this is like going super fast. This is like going over 32 bars, which is like half a track. Most importantly, all you have to do is find a strategy that works for you. If it doesn't work this way, you can start your track with any sound. You could start with the chords, you could start with the bass, you could start with any of the key sounds of a song with a sample. And if you feel like that's not enough effort to just drag and drop a sample into your DAW, you could just chop it up. But I'm just sort of giving a framework, a suggestion to try this out, because it can greatly improve your production skills even without the sample. Just take that sample out, or you could try to like replicate that sample with your own ARP or something and use that sample as a reference, kind of like if you were to be mixing a track and you're adjusting the volumes of your sounds to the reference track. It's kind of like the same idea. If you're not feeling comfortable, just use the sample on its own. I really hope that this video helped. Again, it's trying to make music production as simple as can be. It's a very difficult thing to master. It's very difficult to get good at. I know a lot of people think that using a computer is easy with music production because all the sounds are available from your DAW, but it's really not, because you're putting all those sounds together into one track. You're not playing one instrument in a band. You're not just singing. It's doing all these things into one. So especially if you're creating a more complex EDM genre like dubstep or dance with vocals, it's a lot harder because you're putting all the elements yourself and you're also mixing them as well. So doing all these things that would normally take a band to do in live music, you're doing by yourself on a computer. Consider yourselves really lucky. You should consider yourselves proud, because it really is hard. Not only do you have to learn all of this, but you also have to learn the DAW that you're using, even the stuff that you don't normally use. Think about all these different knobs, all these different buttons that you press, and also learning all of the command keys that will give you shortcuts. I mean, those things are like essential, because you're going to take hours making your track if you don't know what the hotkeys are. It saves so much time. Okay, that sums up what I'm trying to show you guys. So anyways, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like down below. I'm trying to practice myself at getting better at music. I'm trying to practice at getting better on camera, and that's what these videos are for. Not just for you guys to learn. I'm just trying to share the advice that I've picked up throughout my years of producing, but I'm also trying to get better myself. I'm trying to practice in areas that I'm normally not as comfortable with, and that is being on camera explaining things. Anyways, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. My socials will be linked in the video, so if you want to hit me up for any collaborations, any questions, if you want me to do feedback on songs or vice versa, feel free to do so. I will be signing out. Good luck with creating music, everyone. Peace out.